moments, I'd like you to imagine that you're actually somebody else. And imagine, if you will, that you're really a professional tennis player. And you've been playing for a long time. In fact, you have slogged from tournament to tournament. You have played game after game. You have practiced hour after hour. You've had wins. You've had some losses. You've had injuries and you've come back. And then one day, after you've played the Australian Open, you realise that you are really tired. In fact, actually, you're not just tired. You are exhausted. And then you realise that you've also fallen out of love with tennis and you just don't want to do it anymore. But hey, you're not Roger Federer. You haven't made a whole lot of money. You've got to keep working. But if you don't play tennis, what will you do? Now, I had a moment like that a few years ago, just like that imaginary tennis player, except that the game wasn't tennis, it was just life. And as I was coming up to my 50th birthday, something which I know most of you haven't reached, I felt like someone had blown the whistle and it was like half time in the game of my life. And I'm sitting there on the bench and I'm exhausted. And I'm looking back at the first half of my life and imagining the second half of my life and thinking, I don't want it to be a repeat of the first. And then I realised something else. I was just utterly sick of the marketing career in which I had spent 30 years. And I just didn't want to do it anymore. But it was all I had ever known, and I needed to work, I want to work, but if I didn't do that, what would I do? And I realised then that I was really stuck, probably more stuck than I had been ever in my life before. And you don't know me, but I'm a very ideas-rich person. I'm a decision-oriented kind of person, and to be in that kind of state of uncertainty was really difficult. And the more I tried to think of ideas and come up with an answer about what I was going to do next, the more trapped I felt. And I was scared. And I'll admit, I got a little depressed. And I read something about, addressing depression with meditation. And so I went off and I learned how to meditate. And that got me out of my head and into my body. And it got me out of the future and into the present. And I also realised that sometimes you can think and think and think and try and come up with an answer, but it just won't come. So meditating gave me a little bit of space. And then I just decided to experiment. So I went off and did a whole lot of things like improvisation classes and acting classes and just things that had me think in really, really different ways, just for the hell of it. And then fast forward to late last year, and I had just turned 52, and I realised, wow, the second half has started, and I didn't realise until then. But I was happier than I had been for a long time. And I also realised that I wasn't unique, that there are lots of people who are around 50 around the world walking around going, what's next? I hadn't had a bolt from the blue. I hadn't had any divine inspiration. But at this point, I was happier and I felt like things were moving again. And as I said, I wasn't unique. I realised that there are lots of people who are like me, who've had one career and call us greedy, but we'd love another one. We want to make money, but we also want to have meaning and make a contribution. So in terms of getting unstuck, I have no exact recipe, but I think, getting out of your head and into the moment, which is, after all, the only moment that we have, is the first step. And then Do some things which have you think in different ways. Let your brain make connections while you're off doing something else, even as stupid as a lustful duck. And if you do that, I can guarantee that at some point you'll wake up and you go, oh my God, I'm moving once again. Now I'm unstuck. Thank you.